seconds away on Studio 5.
I'm not comfortable with where I am right now.
Getting uncomfortable with chart-topping hip-hop artist Andy Mineo.
I will deliver.
A gospel legend unlocks a dangerous church secret. And with a new Grammy on his shelf, Toby Mac has an intentional word for Studio 5, which starts right now.
My own people own people, but they don't own that.
Uncomfortable. It's the title track from Andy Mineo's latest project, and we're catching up with him on his Uncomfortable tour. Welcome to Studio 5, which today is an audio studio where music is made. It's also a place where all of our guests are quite comfortable as we explore the idea of stepping out of your comfort zone. We don't want to waste 1 second, so let's begin with the top 5 from Studio 5. Number 5.
You know, the Bible is the most remarkable book that's ever been written.
More than 4,000 children participated in the first season of the Bible Beat. In April, the top contestants go toe-to-toe as Kirk Cameron hosts season 2 of the game show, with $250,000 up for grabs.
The real prize of the National Bible Beat is the Word of God.
We are Christ representatives.
Number 4 is a Studio 5 exclusive. Grammy-nominated gospel artist Jonathan McReynolds asked us to break the news about the launch of his new nonprofit, Elahu Nation.
This whole nonprofit is kind of aimed at spreading the wisdom of God. I think it's something that our culture tries to downplay and even devalue.
And you're invited to the launch party in his hometown, Chicago, March 10th. Learn more at elahunation.org. At number 3,
We want answers.
she played a strong Chilean woman in the 33. Juliette Binoche is now using her star power to make room for more women in Hollywood. She's teaming up with the nonprofit production company We Do It Together to empower women in television and film. At number 2, actress Jennifer Garner says her life was transformed while working on the film Miracles from Heaven.
So you're telling me that when this baby girl fell 30 feet, she hit her head just right, and it didn't kill her, and it didn't paralyze her. It healed her.
It's the true story of a little girl with an incurable disease. Garner told me meeting the girl's mom, Christy Dean, and seeing her faith had a profound impact on her. At number 1, worship leader and Grammy Award winner Israel Houghton announced he and his wife are divorcing. He broke the news on Facebook saying several years ago he failed and sinned in his marriage, and the challenges proved too much to overcome. He was married for 20 years. Those are your top 5 from Studio 5, which, as you heard, included the difficult news of divorce for a man whose music has touched millions. That is certainly uncomfortable, especially in Christian circles. But we can't run away from talking about it or dealing with what is difficult. That's a lesson rapper Andy Mineo is exploring these days, like with this tweet that sparked an online debate. He asked this question: do you guys really think if a person uses profanity in their music, they couldn't possibly be a Christian? Why? An uncomfortable question for some. We caught up with the man on his Uncomfortable tour for this Studio 5 interview.
You can't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Where the brakes at? I give him that diddy bop. Like take that, take that, take that, take that.
Andy Mineo. There is simply no stopping this kid from Washington Heights, New York. You're Sicilian?
Yeah.
When does a Sicilian fall in love with hip-hop music?
Well, when my Sicilian brother bought me a Jay-Z CD and a pair of New Balance for Christmas one year, and, you know, just being around it, listening to it, having fun, and getting inspired by it and wanting to reproduce it myself.
At 9 or 10, was the dream that you would be a recording artist, you would perform and do all this stuff?
No, no.
What was the dream?
I think I wanted to be a pro wrestler or a football player. I definitely wanted to drop kick somebody or, you know, jump off the top turnbuckle. That was a dream of mine. So, yeah, but rap was just a fun thing I did.
Andy's fun earned him a spot as a recording artist on Lecrae's Reach Records label. selling out major performance halls across America and Europe.
When do you think you realized the power of this music? Because, I mean, your music is touching people at a place many people can't imagine. When did you realize that the power?
Being a guy who grew up in a single-parent home, you know, with my mom, she would work the night shift and I had no dad around, I really learned a lot about life through rap music. So I learned about fashion, I learned about sneakers, I learned about women, I learned about money, I learned about relationships, I learned about manhood through rap music.
That's not all good, I'm assuming.
Well,
initially,
you know,
anyway.
right? I mean, there's some good and some bad in there, and you know, I think rap music grew me up in some ways. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was conscious or unconscious, taking in that kind of music and that information shaped my worldview and the way I thought about the world and the way I thought about carrying myself. And so, you know, the older I got, as I became a Christian, I started to realize like the principles of God's kingdom, you know, and the principles that I had learned through hip hop were at odds, and it was hard to reconcile those things because, you know, I loved hip hop. The culture, the music, the fashion, the expression is beautiful, but not all the things that come out of it are necessarily, you know, aligned with, you know, the teachings of Jesus. So that was the hardest part for me.
His latest project?
Just black it out. 3, 2, 1.
Is, like the cover suggests, uncomfortable.
That word, uncomfortable, the reason why I even named my album that was because that's just honestly the place where I am in my own life for lots of reasons. And I started to see that as a bad thing. And I slowly started to realize like being uncomfortable, being in tension is often the time that you're stretched to grow the most. And I've been just kind of learning to embrace that over the course of these last few years.
One of the things I've heard you say a few times is good art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There should be something in what we're creating or what we're saying that is going to bring comfort to those who are hurting and broken, because we have a sense of apathy and understanding, you know what I'm saying, and care for those who are wounded. And at the same time, an eagerness to shake up the things that are set in place that shouldn't be.
This project has been I don't know if the word struggle for you, because from what I've been reading and hearing you say is you prepared music and then threw it away and did the whole thing over, and you're on tour with Lecrae, you get married. I mean, so this whole process, what's that been like, and why the difficulty, you think?
Yeah, well, it's been hectic. It's been uncomfortable, you know. I had a lot of incredible things happen to me in my life in this past year. I got engaged, I got married, I planned a wedding, right? I went on 2 tours, and in the midst of all that was trying to work on an album. And in addition, you know, I'm having my own artistic struggle and my own artistic battle, being an artist who is a Christian and an artist who's in hip hop culture and trying to you know, find my own sound. For me, I'm really just not okay with settling for where I'm at. You know, I don't want to be good, I want to be great. And I think there's a lot of growing for me to still do in order to achieve that. And I'm not comfortable with where I am right now. I want to do more, I want to create more, I want to say more, I want to push the boundaries artistically and sonically. And, you know, that's just something I'm chasing.
Chasing. Andy is also chasing new music to improve his relationship with his sister, who happens to be deaf. So exactly, how do you write a song for someone who can't hear? Andy explores that question when the interview continues. Still ahead on Studio 5. The powerful voice of Tasha Cobbs and the painful secret that produced this hit song. How do you write a love song for someone who can't hear it? It sounds not only uncomfortable, but impossible. At least I thought so, until I sat down with Andy Mineo for the continuation of the interview. This Andy Mineo music video is oh so simple, but oh so sweet. It's a love song.
Hear My Heart was written for your older sister Grace, who's deaf. How do you write music for someone who can't hear?
Yeah. When the concept of that song came to mind, it was a few years ago actually, it was about 2 years ago. And you know, I was sitting at a picnic table and my sister introduced me to a couple of her friends who were all hard of hearing and deaf, and they started to sign. You know, she said, hey, this is my brother, and they started to sign, and I was like, hey, I don't know, you know, I don't know what you guys are saying. And they kind of looked at me like, how do you not know sign language? Your sister is deaf, you know? And it was one of those moments, it stung for me, like watching them communicate and me feeling for the first time to be the minority, the one that's left out, and just say, man, this must be how my sister, you know, has felt her whole life. And that's when the idea for the song came about. How do I make a song for someone who can't hear? So in the creative process, I actually did a lot of things where when I was with the musicians, I was like, how can we make a record that is slowly paced enough that if I were to do sign language to translate it, it would work? But at the same time, how can we make the instrument sound like a heartbeat? And so if you listen to the bass line, and that's boom, boom, you know, that's a heartbeat. And, you know, just playing with some things sonically to create the feeling and sensation and vibration for her to enjoy. But also, you know, working on this music video that's all done in sign language for her.
What's her response been so far? What did she share?
Well, I did the show in New York City, the homecoming show at Irving Plaza, and it was sold out, and she was in the building, and I brought an interpreter there for her. And from the front of the stage, I did some sign language for her to let her know, you know, that this song is for you. And, you know, some leaky faucets were happening. But, you know, she's just grateful that I was able to see that. And a lot of people in the deaf community have felt the same way.
Who are you listening to? Who are you listening to? Who's in your ear?
I go through some phases where I'm just like not listening to anything. And then I go through phases where I'm like dabbling in a weird, you know, sound. So like today on the bus, we were listening to progressive rock from the 60s. So like Yes and King Crimson, just like taking it in, you know what I mean? Like these lyrics are so good, you know. And then I'll go through phases where it was weird. I was listening to like, I was studying the Romantic era classical music for a while, you know, and I was listening to like Berlioz and Chopin, you know what I'm saying? I was like listening to all these pieces because I think the best artists are able to find inspiration from spheres that are far outside of their sphere of influence. Because when you grab those ideas and you bring them into your sphere, they look like new ideas, or they look, you know, innovative. And so
I think people like yourself and your mentor and label owner Lecrae, you have been able to enter worlds that Christian artists don't always get to enter. And I think more and more, you guys are being deemed hip-hop artists and not just Christian hip-hop artists.
Sure.
Why do you think this is? I mean, Lecrae topped Billboard and gospel at the same time.
Sure.
And you know, you're performing with Christian artists on stage with non-Christian artists.
Sure.
Why do you think that is now for you?
Why do I think that the label is starting to be shed?
Or that people are embracing your music and your message and his music and his message so now?
Well, I think good music like helps your message, and bad music marginalizes your message. And so, you know, I think people like good music, you know what I mean? And if, for example, like I like music from a sonic perspective that I don't necessarily agree with message-wise. I mean, I think all of us could say that. We turn on the radio and just be like, man, this song is about strippers, but, you know, I might not want my daughter to be a stripper, but the beat is amazing, you know what I mean? And I think there's that kind of concept happening a little bit where it's just like, man, this is good music, and, you know, people who agree with the perspective or don't, I think, are drawn to good music, so that helps. You know, and I think people are starting to understand that, like, putting labels on people can really marginalize them. And it's not that, Yeah, I think that concept is being more and more understood as we've talked about it in more interviews and shared that perspective. It's just like, man, the title, you know, is both helpful and unhelpful at the same time, and it's a dichotomy. It's like it helps rally people who believe in your message around your music and say, oh, it's this? Now finally something I can listen to. And then sometimes it scares people away from even giving your music a chance. And so I think let the music speak for itself has been kind of our push, like, let the music speak for itself, and you know, labels are just that, you know what I mean? They're not very helpful, in my opinion. No artist, no creative wants to be figured out by a label. You know, we're like, we're too creative, we're too and every genre of music and every kind of artist has always tried to shed a label because they just don't like to be boxed in. You know, our experience is not unique, you know, to the artist, so.
My last question for you, you are really good at freestyling. If you could freestyle something for me.
Where do we begin? Got the lights on here at CBN. I'm going off the head. Like that one, got the bald head. I do it again. You dressed up way more spiffy. I got the Grateful on, you know who's rolling with me. I see you with the glasses, got no backpack, but yet I'm rapping. This table's real long, I can't reach him to give him that, friend.
Still ahead on Studio 5, he's a gospel music legend with an endless list of hits and honors.
It got to the point where I couldn't get out of bed.
He's now sharing the pain behind the praise.
Jesus saves.
That is the stellar Dove and Grammy Award-winning voice of Tasha Cobbs. But what you may not know is that song, Jesus Saves, was inspired by her long battle with depression.
You had never seen.
She shares the story with readers of Essence magazine. She writes she would get up, sing, and watch people be delivered and set free, then go home, close the curtains, get under the covers, stop eating, and stay in her room for days at a time. Tasha is not alone. Depression is a dangerous secret, particularly in the church. A gospel music legend is shining light on it and sharing his story with Studio 5. His name is Richard Smallwood. From a small children's choir to his current group, Vision, Richard Smallwood's career includes a Grammy, multiple Dove Awards, and a place in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame. He's also collaborated with the likes of Chaka Khan, Aretha Franklin, and Bill Gaither, who helped to write Jesus, You're the Center of My Joy.
You are the center.
Whitney Houston showcased his song, I Love the Lord, in the film The Preacher's Wife. And last summer, his anthem, Total Praise, was performed at the White House for Pope Francis and broadcast around the world. But even with all of this acclaim, Minister Smallwood surprised fans when he revealed his signature sound often came from a dark place of pain.
It got to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I wouldn't get in the shower. The only time I would sort of go out was if we had somewhere to sing.
A series of tragedies, including deaths, landed him in what he describes as a dark well, and at the door of a fellow minister who is also a clinical psychologist.
After seeing her for a while, she said, Richard, you're 100% clinically depressed.
Talks helped, but didn't quite lift him from the dark hole.
I had to get on medication, which was a major decision for me because I was afraid. You know, I heard so many horror stories, but it wasn't getting any better.
The same man who gave concerts encouraging his audiences with lyrics like, there's healing for your soul, felt like a fraud.
They're coming up to me saying, your song saved me from this, or your song ministered to me in this. And I go off the stage and go back to the hotel and close the door, and I'm hurting.
Pain he kept hidden.
Because it's such a stigma, you're ashamed. I think certainly the church doesn't talk about it, and certainly my culture doesn't talk about it. So it was sort of a double kind of thing. I didn't want anybody to know.
All the honor
He's been off medication for 7 years, but still sees his therapist from time to time. He credits prayer and counseling for his recovery. He's now writing music and his autobiography, with hopes it will help many more people dealing with depression.
I had no idea just sharing my story would encourage others. When they see someone who has been successful in some kind of way, talk about the stuff they had to get through to get to that point, that encourages them to say, well, if they can make it, I can.
Still ahead, here on Studio 5, TobyMac has a new Grammy on the shelf and an intentional message for us all. Here's a thought as we look at what we're working on for the next Studio 5. Could you answer yes before you knew the question?
I was teaching and God said really clearly, I want to do something special for you, but I need you to give me yes now. And that was the control freak in me just like exploded.
You let it go?
Yes, and I said, you know what, God, I'm going to do it.
It's been less than 2 years since singer Casey J agreed to blindly follow the Lord's will. On the next Studio 5, she shares how God took her from teaching grade school to the top of the gospel music charts. As long as we're in a place where great music can be made, I'm giving today's final word to the music man who just added another Grammy to his shelf, TobyMac.
I think the most interesting thing I've learned the last few years is, man, your intent means a lot, but intent gets lost sometimes. And I think we can just sort of keep trying again and again and again, and almost like we have practice runs in life. There ain't no practice runs in life. This is it today. Wake up this morning, don't just intend, get on it.
This is certainly not a practice run. That is the final word for Studio 5. Until next time, reach out and touch me on social media. You can find me at Ephraim Graham on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Then come on back next week and see where Studio 5 takes you next.